Hey, welcome. I'm Mish. I'm a Trekkie, and this is a year of Trek. So when you come in, put your name up there. I'm just going to assume that one person watching right now is Rob, but you never know. We are getting more subscribers, so I just think that's amazing. All right, so just a note before we get started. I have a sleeping baby in the other room. So if he starts crying, I'm going to get up and go get him, and then he will be part of the podcast. Right on, Rob. Thank you for joining me this late. I've got the next couple of days already scheduled. I posted it on our Facebook page, but we've got, of course, tonight at 8 p.m., 7 p.m. tomorrow. We got Thursday, and then there's at 5:30 we're going to have our standard Lower Decks one, new episode, and then at 7 p.m. we're going to have our standard show, and then Friday we'll do it at 7 again. So it's really looking that 7 p.m. is kind of that sweet spot. I'd like to try and do it a little bit earlier, but I think 7 works. Tuesdays for right now, Tuesdays are going to be at 8, just because volleyball, I have a Zoom at 7, and so 8 is basically the best time. So that's pretty much the schedule going forward, but I plan on posting that stuff on a regular basis on YouTube. And I was on Instagram today, and I have an Instagram personal. Do I want to make an Instagram for this? I don't know. It might bring more people, and that's what we want. So today's episodes we covered, we watched Conscious of the King, and my favorite, Balance of Terror. So Conscience of the King, of course, lots and lots of Shakespeare. Basically, the premise of this episode is the Kodos the Executioner Kodos the Executioner is alive, and Kirk and a couple other people are the only ones that have seen him, and then everybody, basically all the witnesses, die. I have some questions. All right, so we have more. If you're logging on, put in the comments who you are and where you're tuning in from. Feel free to comment and all that kind of stuff. So basically, what was it? 10 years ago? No, I'm sorry. 20 years ago, Kodos was the governor of Tarsus 4, and there was a famine, and he killed half the population. Okay. So there's some problems that I have with this. If you're the governor of a colony and nobody knows who you look like, I mean, that's my biggest thing, because it's like, even when Kirk goes to the computer and says, okay, and compares a picture of the actor dude, and I didn't even write down his name, the actor dude and Kodos, okay, you've got the younger guy and the older guy. Of course they had a picture of him. So and everybody knew that he had killed people. So we're killing off witnesses of the witnesses who know who it is. I don't know. And hold on. Where's my, okay. Endgame stole the idea for Thanos' staff from this episode. Okay. Probably. So that's really my major problem with this whole story is you like, okay, it's kind of like, oh, let's track down who it is, and then we find out it's really the daughter killing the witnesses, but really the whole setup, like your governor, like why would, like, you don't know who the governor is or who he looks like? Yeah, that's my biggest problem, and I think that pretty much throws the whole episode out of wax. Now, Majel Barrett has always played the voice of the computer. She did that in most notably The Next Generation. She did that in Star Trek '09. She's done the voice for a while. I had heard that she's always been the voice of the Enterprise. Always. She's always been the computer voice. I did not hear it in an original episode until this episode. And it was one of those where I heard her voice and I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. She is the voice, and she has always been the voice of the Enterprise. Maybe not in Star Trek III: The Wrath, or Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. I don't remember her voice in there, but we will get to that movie eventually. Anyway, so this is really like, it's one of those things that I've known it, but I didn't really know it. Like it confirmed for my own ears. So I thought that was kind of cool. That was like, yay, only been a Trekkie all my life, and I just realized this. Another thing, and I don't know if you guys caught on to this, when Kirk goes to the party that his buddy is having, because that's the whole thing. He ends up going to the planet that these actors are on because his buddy is like, oh, hey, by the way, he lured him there for, I don't know, something having to do with food and endless supply. But he's throwing this party for the actors. Kirk shows up, meets the girl. The music in the background, like there's like you'd go to a party and there's music, like there's a stereo playing in music. It is the Star Trek theme song. Had not caught on to that before. And I wasn't even really listening. Like I was watching it, iPad in hand, note, and I'm there and I'm like, wait a minute, that's the Star Trek theme song. And I, hit the little 10-second back blunt and I listened. I was like, that's so cool. It's the little things. It's the little things. This is kind of making the episode a little bit more interesting than the whole really bad setup and storyline. And then, yeah, I've missed it every time I've watched the episode. And I think I've missed it probably 100 times. 100 times. But I got it today. I thought that was really cool. So Kirk tells, he gets these guys on his ship because he convinces the captain of the Astral Queen to not pick them up because they, they're going from colony to colony, and this ship, the Astral Queen, was supposed to pick them up and move them. So I hear this name of the ship and I'm like, Astral Queen, that sounds familiar. Not that I've only seen the episode hundreds of times, but it clicked. Battlestar Galactica. The Astral Queen is a prisoner ship in Battlestar Galactica, the re-envisioning from Robert Moore. So, and of course, he plays tribute to Star Trek a couple times throughout the 4 seasons. And even Firefly, if you actually watch the first episode of the miniseries, and President Roslin is sitting in her doctor's office, and you see the ships in the skylight out the window. You see you see the Serenity fly up and fly away. So if you haven't picked that one up, watch the first episode of Battlestar Galactica, the miniseries. Okay, so Astral Queen, I was like, that's cool. Another reference. Okay, let's see. Oh, and then so I wrote this in red. The body of Kodos was so badly burned, it was assumed that he was dead, but not confirmed. Okay. Now, I totally thought, and going on the whole presence, like this guy killed half of his population. Okay. Now his reasoning was he was basically killing half to save half. So in his mind, he was doing a good thing. And the whole premise was that there wasn't enough food to feed 8,000 people, but there was enough food to feed 4,000 people. Okay. Not the greatest choice in the world. I wouldn't have chosen that, but I wasn't there. Now, of course, he's burned, assumed dead, not confirmed. I totally thought of World War II and the Nazis and Hitler, because of Hitler kills a bunch of Jews, or at least orders the killing of a bunch of Jews. And then when he dies, he commits suicide, and watching basically the Hitler channel, the History Channel, when it was still there, they had basically, it was all World War II when the History Channel started up. So when it comes to there were no allies that actually laid eyes on Hitler to say, yeah, that's him. Like it was, they found out that he died because of, it was really their own radio traffic, the Germans' own radio traffic. And so there's lots of theories, and somebody had actually come up with proof, I could be wrong, but that was not Hitler, because of course they didn't do any DNA and all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't Hitler, but it was a body double, that even the damage done during his suicide was like they couldn't truly identify him, and that the real Hitler basically has been living down in South America ever since. Just like Kodos the Executioner, he is burned so badly, they just kind of assumed it was him, but never confirmed it. And then he's been an actor for 20 years. So, so I saw that parallel, and I don't know if that was on purpose or what, but I saw that parallel. Some questions that I had. How did Kodos, or really, as we now know, Kodos' daughter, how did she get a hold of a phaser? You would think that the armory was all locked up, because of course, she's trying to kill Kirk, overdoes a phaser. And so how does she get it? How does she get a hold of it? Unless, of course, phasers are just something that you can buy. But it was a Starfleet phaser, so I don't know if she could just buy it, I don't know. And then also the question, how did she get in engineering? Now, with engineering, I can kind of get it. Like Riley is there all by himself, poor guy, thinks he's in trouble. And so it's dark, there's really no one else. I can see somehow them, her sneaking into engineering. But how the phaser? Because later on, when Riley goes to steal a phaser, what is it? The armory guy notifies Kirk and says, hey, so-and-so just stole a phaser. Now, did Kirk put the person there in the armory just in case anybody, because the original phaser was stolen, or is there always somebody in an armory and they just weren't doing their job when what's her name stole a phaser? Anyway, just questions I have about that episode. Oh, and then of course, the quote, "The play will catch the conscience of the king." So the last quote from Codus's daughter, and the title of the episode. I always like how they throw that title in there every now and then. I don't know. I just I mean, there's some good points to the episode. Oh, and then the very, very last thing where like where Dr. McCoy is like, oh, he to Kirk, he's like, oh, you really cared about her, didn't you? And then Kirk doesn't answer. He just kind of looks, and McCoy's like, oh, okay, well, that confirms that. Dude, like, you're gonna have a chick next week. I don't. She was crazy. Didn't you see her crazy eyes? She had crazy eyes. Got to stay away from those crazy eyed chicks. All right. I don't know. The story, I'm sure if they had probably set it up a little bit differently, the story would have worked. I mean, it was a good story, but the whole setup of the whole witnesses and and who the person was, like if they had made it where Kodos was not a known person, like maybe known by name but not by face, that kind of thing. I would have gotten that, but the governor of the colony, suspicion. Okay. Enough of that. Let's move on to Balance of Terror. Okay. I can't remember if they actually called out a star date at all on the previous episode. Oh yeah, Conscience of the King, star date 28/17.6. Balance of Terror, we're going back in time, back in stardate time. We're looking at 1709.2. This is the first time, to my recollection so far, because we're really only 10 episodes in, that they actually use the term red alert, or as Sulu is calling out over the things, condition red. So, and I'll have to pay attention to that as we move forward. But I think this is kind of where they started to solidify, because they in previous episodes it was like level 3 or whatever levels. But I think that this is now kind of a standard thing. And then of course yellow alert, all that kind of stuff. So this is the first thing. Now, of course, this episode is we meet the Vulcan, not the Vulcans. We meet the Romulans. We meet it's this struggle. Okay, there's this tension there. Yes. Okay, going back, yes, evolution from the tactical alert to various level layers. Yes, absolutely. So, of course, we open up, and it's a wedding. It's a wedding, and it's a happy time. And, of course, they have to throw a little bit of tension in there. Spock is like, oh, Captain, we're Earth Colony 3 is not responding anymore. So there's that tension in the background. But there's a wedding. And people are getting married. It's just a happy, happy time. Somebody's going to die. That's the first thing I think of. At the very, very beginning, one or both of that couple, one of them's dead by the end of the episode. I mean, guaranteed. It's just who dies. And that could almost be a drinking game. Like, who dies? So, and actually, that's kind of, that I had mentioned Cold Case a couple episodes ago. So my wife and I, primarily my wife, binge watching Cold Case, and the whole, you've got whatever happened way back when, and somebody dies, and then of course, the Cold Case gets it, and then the story continues. The joke was that, basically the little competition between me and my wife is picking who's going to die. It's like, oh, because we kind of get that idea of who's going to die. And then, of course, the challenge is who did it and calling it way before the episode ends. So anytime you guys binge watch that, that's a great little competition you can have. So marriage, wedding, somebody's going to die. Okay, so we get introduced to the Romulan Star Empire, the new bad guys, because really we haven't had a bad guy yet, you know, that might be considered an overall arc. We're introduced to Mr. Styles. Initially, I was like, could this Lieutenant Styles be Captain Styles of Star Trek 3? But it is not, because, well, spoiler, Styles dies at the end of the episode. And the names are spelled differently. So, let's see. What? Okay, so actually, no. No, Styles doesn't die. But it is different. It is a different name. Or maybe does Styles die? Shoot, I don't know. Nope. No, he doesn't. Because only one person dies in this episode. And I'll let you know at the end of this podcast. So if you want to know who dies in the episode, either watch the episode or watch this podcast till the end. All right. I'm just stupid. Okay. So, so the one thing, okay, one of the, and I don't think he ever brought this up. So I've mentioned his name before, Steve Shives. He's got one of the episode series that he does for his channel on YouTube is Trek Actually. And one of the videos is something about how, like, is the Federation or is Starfleet really evil? Like, do they really care? Is it something of that nature? I can't remember exactly how it is. I don't know if he ever brought this part up, but this is something that I noticed from this episode, is that if they're going to be dealing with the Romulans, and the Romulans are blowing up outposts, Kirk is under orders to not retaliate, okay? Because they don't want war. They don't want, because of this Romulan war that happened over 100 years ago, Federation doesn't want war. So he says, the outposts are expendable. He used that term, expendable. Okay, so I don't know. Like, is that for the greater good? Like, okay, the needs of the many outmeet the needs of the one. I don't know. So yeah, I think that kind of goes into the I'd rather be on a starship and not an outpost near a neutral zone. There you go. And then, of course, through the wonders of technology, we get to see the Romulans for the first time. And Styles is triggered because, of course, his family has history in the Romulan Wars. And so who does it end up being? Dude, it's Spock's dad. Not really. It's the actor who plays Spock's dad, plays the Romulan in this episode. And in fact, we haven't met Spock's dad yet. Now, does he kind of look like Spock's dad because he has the pointed ears? Absolutely. Just wearing a different outfit. But it's the same dude. Mark Leonard's pretty cool. Met him in person, got his autograph. This was years ago. But I was that really crazy, like, I was that guy. So I go in line, I get his autograph, and I'm kind of hanging around. And this is before people had like booths. Like it was, in fact, I think for this seminar, it was him and a guy from Babylon 5. And I remember getting the Babylon 5's guy autograph for a friend of mine. And the guy's like, oh, don't you want one? And I was like, sorry, I don't watch your show. And the guy's like, hey, no offense. I was like, hey, but my buddy loves the show, you know, so I got him an autograph. So I was really there for Mark Leonard. But I waited around until like people had kind of filed out and, you know, and so Mark Leonard was getting up from the table and he was drinking this 7-Up, this diet 7-Up can. And I was like, are you are you gonna throw that away? And he looks at me, he's like, yeah. I was like, can I have that? I know it sounds crazy, but can I have that? And can you sign it for me? And the dude signed it for me. I still have the can. I'll have to pull it out of my gear. But yes, I have that can. In fact, I should probably have like some type of like memorabilia wall, not just my ships behind me. And that should be one of the things, because that's just, I love telling that this is one of those crazy things. Like I never thought I would be like, I really like Star Trek, and I always thought I would be like that Star Trek guy that was kind of level-headed. But in that moment, I had to be that fan. So anyway, there's my Mark Leonard story. One thing I noticed, so when they're talking, so you know, as they're playing this cat and mouse game, there's a comment in the area. So they're talking about how they can get this ship. They can identify the ship through the comet. There's a book. There's this book on the table in the conference room, and I had to freeze frame it. It's titled Table of Comets. Seriously, that's what it's titled. Table of Comets. And then it says Galaxy Quadrant. Underneath that, it says Galaxy Quadrant YX-15 dash, and I couldn't get the last part of that. It could be just 14, or it could be 114, or it could be something completely different. But I've never, I mean, I don't really notice, like I'm just watching the episode, but I was like, you know, for the sake of this podcast, I'm going to freeze frame and write this stuff down, because why not? Absolutely, why not? I found it funny. So, okay. Back to this married couple. They're not actually married. They're not able to go through the ceremony yet. So they're still fiance and fiance. So they work. Their job is in the phaser bay lab thingy, whatever you'd call it. Now I know. Okay. Yes, that's true. It sounds like a real page turner. I know. So, in fact, I just thought table of contents, and then I had to really look at it. It was table of contents. So I know they're on this 5-year mission, okay? And you got women and guys, you know, they're going to screw around. Doesn't matter what the regulations are, okay? You're going to have, you know, that interconnecting relationships, okay? The thing that I think would not be allowed, like that could be like, okay, we know it's happening, but we're really not gonna push it. We're not gonna really, you know, and then, but it's one of those where we find out that not only are they on the same ship together, but he's her superior officer. Like, he should be getting in so much trouble right now. Like, so much trouble. Like, that should not be allowed at all. Like, I could understand like a lieutenant from one department and a lieutenant from a different department. That would be cool. Like, you know, or maybe you have the supervisor over here and maybe somebody who is maybe a rank lower, but they're not in the same department. Like, they're in different departments. You wouldn't have like somebody over here and somebody over here. Like when I like insecurity, like my like somebody supervisors, yeah, Federation Human Resources is slacking. Yes, couldn't say it better. Like where I work, like supervisor, like there's family. My son works in the same department I do. I was a lead officer. He could still work on my shift, but as a lead, I don't have any power to like write you up or anything like that. That's the supervisor's job. So hold on just a half a second. So that's the supervisor's job. So supervisors could not have, or managers could not have family members work directly underneath them. Conflict of interest. I see this as a conflict of interest. Why are they saying, why are they in the same department? Now, if they are both the same rank and neither of them has any power, that, okay, doable. Different departments, regardless of rank, doable. Maybe if one is a little bit higher than the other, that's probably really kind of, that's the gray area, but it's different departments. So I do have a problem with that. Let's see. That was my last note. Oh, okay. So the other thing I do have, oh, nope, that was the last note on that, but I have notes in between. So where I was getting with that whole phaser room thing, I thought it was funny. Like this is a cat and mouse, like two submarines in space. Well, they're spaceships, of course. Okay. So now physics in water, yes, you want to have it quiet. Because like that ping, you can like sound waves go through the water, you can triangulate, all that kind of stuff. Both on both ships, they're whispering. They're like, don't they realize sound doesn't travel through space? It's a vacuum. But hey, it's the 60s. It's early Star Trek. I mean, that's the only way you can really kind of get around it. I found it funny as they were firing. There were a couple scenes where they fired phasers at this bird of prey, and like the ship, the inside, you're this, and like even in the phaser room, the phaser fire would go off and would kind of shake as they're firing. Like they're firing projectiles. Like phaser is an energy weapon. It's phased light. Yeah, episode was based on a submarine film, Enemy Below. Oh yeah, no, but yeah, science. Yeah. There's a lot of episodes that are based off of other stories, other movies. But you have to like change it just a little bit. And I know the whole quiet creates the tension, but there's just another way to go about it. Not saying that this isn't a bad episode. It's actually a really good episode. I'm just nitpicking. That's all I'm doing. Now, many, many moons ago, they updated the CGI. And so if you're watching this on Paramount Plus, you're getting new CGI. When they do the whole overlay of space and the where you see Romulus and Remus and the neutral zone and where all the Earth colonies are on the whatever it's called, starts with an A, asteroids. So that was an original. That was not new CGI. What I think would have been really cool, because yes, in the original episode, like you have Kirk talking to the captain, and the captain's like, nope, we could have been friends. in real life under different circumstances in another lifetime, because really they're, you know, this relationship that they've built, and I think they do an okay job setting that up. But when the captain destroys his ship, like, going back to the science, like, you see the ship kind of like inside blow up and then it fades away. What I think would have been really cool is like have it more realistic, like it goes to static or blue screen or whatever, you know, whatever, because they've lost the signal, and then they have the outside view and you actually have video, like you were watching the ship blow up, like, and they could have still done that with the same music. They could have just had that. It just make that scene a little bit better visually, like that, a little bit more realistic. The same thing with when what is it, earlier on in the episode where you have the attack on one of the Earth stations. You know, they're talking to the guy, and then he's like, "Oh, can you see the camera of what's coming at me?" And you see the bird of prey, and then the plasma weapon, and then it goes to the guy inside, and he's like, "Ah!" And then it fades out. Like, it should have gone to static. Just me. Make the episode a little bit better. But I like the episode. Like, it is really good. Nitpicking. There's just some things that I would do to make it a little bit better. Okay, so there you go. That. Oh yeah, who dies? So Styles doesn't die, but Styles is not the Styles of Star Trek 3. Styles is actually, because there was this whole subplot of Styles being kind of anti-Vulcan because Vulcans look like Romulans, but then Styles gets like Styles and the male fiance, the to-be husband, are in the phaser room, and smoke billows. Spock saves Styles, and Styles is like, "Thank you, yay!" But the groom to be, or the groom, he dies. So yes, right at the beginning, somebody dies. He dies. I can't remember his name. Was there a name for him? I'm sure there was. And I did not write it down. But you know what I got? I got this. So we are now down to 418 souls. There we go. We are 10 episodes in, and we have lost 10 crew members. I tell you. All right, so there you have it. That's today's episode. Tomorrow we will be back at 7 p.m. And what are we watching for tomorrow? I believe it is Shore Leave and the Galileo 7. So Shore Leave, that's a fun episode. And then Galileo 7, a little bit more tension, but we actually get to see more of a shuttle. So there you go. So until tomorrow at 7 p.m., be safe, live long and prosper,